get into this. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the live subscribers Q&A. I'll give a minute or so here for people to jump into the live stream here. All right, earlier in the week, I asked you guys to submit questions in the community for tonight's subscriber Q&A. Got a pretty good amount of good questions. Do appreciate that. I'll try to get to as many as possible. All right, so we'll wait here for a little bit. All right. How's everybody doing tonight? Hope everybody's doing all right out there. Let me know what's going on in the chat room. How's everybody's Thursday going? Let me know. All right, guys. If you're catching this on the replay, hit like on the video. If you're watching this live, hit like. Helps out the channel a whole bunch. Do appreciate you guys joining. Okay, this is serious. Let's get started. Got more time. All right, guys. Let's do this. All right, guys. So I really appreciate all the questions that came in for the community subscriber chat. So let's get right into the questions. All right. Let me sort these, and we'll get right into the conversation. All right, guys. Okay, let me see. Yeah, we got a pretty good amount here. Okay, so here we go. This one comes from Monty. Do you think the Joneses have officially changed their mindsets and let their coaching staff and GM run the Cowboys like we have seen this off season? Or is it just a matter of time before we get stepping power from McCarthy staff? If this is successful, can we see Jimmy versus Jerry part 2? Yeah, I don't know. I feel like they felt like they needed to go in a different direction. Okay, so what I like about this is I don't see this being a Jimmy versus Jerry part 2. This is going to be more of having some patience like they did with Garrett. You know, McCarthy signed a 5-year deal, so we'll see how this goes. He's already churning the roster over, and I think you're already seeing some of the the front office, Jerry and Steven, letting him do what he thinks is best for the team. So McCarthy has already had a pretty good influence here thus far from what we can see. Okay, we've seen a different style of player drafted. We've seen different free agents drafted. So that comes from the communication of the coach, what he recommends, what has worked for him in the past. So the Jones family is letting him do that so far. Everything looks good. Okay. Next question comes from Speedy Guerrero. Who do you see as the 4th and 5th wide receivers right now? Do you think they still look to sign a free agent wide receiver? Okay. So my 4th and 5th wide receiver right now, and I did my 55 man roster projection, and you'll continue to see more of the churning there. Okay, if you think Noah Brown and Cedric Wilson are going to make the team, it's going to be an uphill battle for them because McCarthy's looking to put his thumbprint on this. Not let me keep on bringing these guys from the Garrett era onto my team. So, you know, it's possible that some of those guys make it, but you know, I don't see it. Now, Devin Smith, I think he has a good chance of making it there, being your 4th or 5th receiver, because he has veteran leadership, speed. He's your stretch the field type of player. Has, you know, experience running the West Coast offense. So I think, you know, he has a good shot. And my surprise pick is Aaron Parker, the undrafted free agent out of Rhode Island. You know, he has good size, good speed, great hands. He has really good hands and a violent runner after the catch. So that's another theme here that McCarthy likes. He likes to draft wide receivers that are good after the catch and physical after the catch. You know, you've seen it with all the players he drafted before, Jordy Nelson, Devontae Adams, you know, Greg Jennings, James Jones, all these guys that he had in his arsenal. None of them were finesse. After they caught the ball, they weren't afraid of contact. So to me, Aaron Parker is that type of wide receiver. So For right now, Devin Smith and Aaron Parker round out my wide receivers. Okay. Next question comes from Ramon. Is Eric Berry that hurt that we can't sign him for a 1 year? Okay, so Eric Berry is still a free agent, and for a good reason, and it's not just the Cowboys. There's 31 other teams that have passed on him that have not signed him. So that's a bit of a situation there as well. So he's up in age, and he didn't play that well in his final year there as well. So I think that ship has sailed on Eric Berry. I think if you see articles and that kind of thing on Eric Berry, it's more clickbait than anything else. He won't be coming here, and I don't even know if he'll sign with anybody for that matter. Okay. This next question comes from Mark Croc. Mark Croc. Joe, do you think we should pursue Everson Griffin or Jadeveon Clowney? Okay. Also, who would Donovan Wilson replace at safety? Woods or Dix if they go that route? Okay. Do you think they're considering Cheeto at safety? If so, Diggs starts. Okay, so lots to unpack here on this question here. So, the thumbnail I have here obviously addresses the elephant in the room. Are the Cowboys done making moves at in free agency? Right now the Cowboys are a little over $5 million available in cap space. They did have cap space, but a couple of these recent moves has chopped that down. Then you have the rookie pool. You have to consider that chops it down some more. That's another $7 million. So we're at about $5 million in cap space. That's not much. Okay. We started the offseason with a pretty big amount of cap space, and with all these moves, you're losing cap space. So now, if we're talking about player Everson Griffin or Jadeveon Clowney, who would I take? You're getting positives and negatives with each one of them. Okay, Everson Griffin, he has the relationship with our coach here, with one of our defensive advisors, obviously the former defensive coordinator of the Vikings. He's on the staff now. So how much is he asking for? Does he still have gas in the tank? For Jadeveon Clowney, do you sign him to a 6-game deal? Okay, because the thing about Clowney is that he has yet to complete. I think he's only had one season where he completed 16 games. All the other seasons, he's missed a lot of time. And then in the games he's played, he's taken a lot of plays off. Now, if you get a Clowney that can play a whole season versus a Jefferson Griffin in his prime, for me, I like Clowney. He brings you the sack production, and he can play the run really well. Okay, it's really hard to find pass rushers that can play the run well. DeMarcus Lawrence is one of those rare breeds. Anthony Spencer from back in the day, he was that. DeMarcus Ware was not that good at playing the run. Okay, he was more of your straight up the field, harass the quarterback and get the job done sack artist. Okay, but to find a pass rusher that can do both and do it, fairly well, Jadeveon Clowney is one of those players, but he's had an up and down sack career. Okay, and the question on his motor, his heart, those are real things. That's why he hasn't signed with anybody. Okay, he's asking for DeMarcus Lawrence money. He wants $21 million a year type of contract. For me, he's definitely not on Lawrence's level. Not even close. So now I have read up on articles where Jadeveon Clowney says that he's willing to drop his number to $17 million. So it's possible you could get Jadeveon on a 1-year deal. But how low is he willing to go? How low are his agents willing to go? Even if it comes down to $15 million, is probably still out of the range. I think for the Cowboys to bite on a 1-year deal for Jadeveon Clowney, you might have to get that number down to $10 or $12 million. And in that case, the Cowboys can manipulate the cap, restructuring, maybe cutting a player. Some people in the comments, chat box have said Tyron Crawford. That's who I really have in my target list as players that you could possibly cut to save money. too beat up, shoulder, hip, calf, Achilles. I mean, he's had all kinds of injuries, you know. He's a good player. They like the position flex, but this whole notion of the position flex, this was the previous, you know, regime of Jason Garrett. They were big on position flex. This one here, I don't think you're going to see that much of. We got to get this guy position flex and this and that. You know, there's rumors of Cheeto going to safety. I don't see that happening either. It makes, in Cheeto's defense, it makes no sense for him to want to make that move. He loses millions of dollars moving in his final year to go to safety. He loses millions of dollars. He won't do that. Okay, if they ask him to do that and he doesn't want to do it, he's going to ask for a trade out of here. And there's a lot to do here in the offseason. Does that happen? It could. But if you're Cheeto Wuze, you don't want to move to safety in your final year of your deal because you're going to lose millions of dollars. Cornerbacks make way more money than safeties unless you're a high-end safety, okay? I mean high-end, like top 3 safeties, okay? Those guys are the ones that are making pretty big money, but still, cornerbacks are still the guys that make the most money in the secondary, okay? So for Clowney, Cowboys would have to cut some players, move some money around to make that deal happen, okay? I would do it for the right price. I would take Clowney over Griffin just for the fact that I just said. I like how he can get to the quarterback and he busts up a lot of plays in the backfield. I think he makes your defense better. Griffin too, you know, I think Griffin you can get him a lot cheaper than Clowney for sure. You know, he may be somebody that's still in the Cowboys' target, and with him, I think it would be an easier move. Okay, let's get to the next question. This one comes from Gary Davidson. I say the offensive line is a question for no center, a finesse guard in Williams, and 2 Mean Street in McGovern and Biadish in waiting. Okay. So I think this is more of a statement more than a question, but we'll talk about this anyway. For the offensive line, I do agree. Connor Williams at left guard is a little bit too finesse. He's had back-to-back injury type of seasons. You know, so they brought in McGovern. Yeah, I think McGovern and Connor Williams is where the battle's going to be at. He might get a look at center with Biadish, but you have Looney, who was already going to be your backup to center. So to me, you're looking more at Biadish versus Looney. You don't trade back into the 4th round, you know, for nothing, okay? And if you watch the press conference, McCarthy talked very highly of Biadish. He watched this game there in person over there in Wisconsin. You know, McCarthy still lives in the area. Saw him firsthand. Loves the player, okay? Loved the player enough to move back into the 4th round to pick him up. So this whole notion of Biadish, you know, possibly just being a backup or that kind of thing, that's not the plan here. That's not the plan. I don't think so anyway. This is just my opinion. Okay, and I'm just a YouTuber here, okay? But that's just my opinion. I think it's going to be Biadish at center, Connor Williams, Connor McGovern battling it out. I hope McGovern wins it, okay? He had the pec injury. The Cowboys kind of rushed him too fast, re-hurt it, and they had to shove him, put him on IR. But if you're talking about a guard, he has better guard tape in college at Penn State versus Connor Williams. Connor Williams played most of his career at left tackle, okay? So let's hope McGovern wins that battle out. I think he's more of a mauler. He's more of a scrapper. He opened up a lot of holes for Saquon Barkley and Miles Sanders, you know, over there at Penn State. So he's, for me, he's the answer at left guard, okay? Let's get to the next question here. This one comes from BK Folson. Can you see Dalton starting day 1? Okay. Let me know in the comments. Let me know in the chat box. Do you think that Dalton will start day 1? Okay, so that's the question. If Dalton is starting day 1, there's a serious problem with the contract negotiations. Okay, that's the only way I see Dalton starting, is if Dak Prescott skips, all of training camp, all of the preseason, holds out and starts to take on fines because he will start getting fined a lot of money, and he's going to lose a lot of money. Okay, so I just don't see that happening. He's on the franchise tag. I think he's going to get what is it, 31 or 33 million dollars or something on the franchise tag, something like that, right? So I think ultimately he'll show up for day one. Will he have rust? That would be my main concern. Okay, so in short, I don't see Dalton starting day one. He is a good backup. However, you might need him. Okay. Let's get to the next question. These are good questions, guys. I do appreciate everybody that submitted a question. All right. Thanks for everybody that's hopped on here on the live feed. Hit like on this video, guys, if you're watching this now, and subscribe if you haven't already. Next question. Gunzuno PXGZ. To me, tight end right now is our weakest link. Okay. Do you believe in Blake Jarwin, or do you think we draft a tight end next year? I feel like we get a tight end that fights for yards like Kittle and Gronk, and our offense would be deadly all across the board. Yeah, so good question. Do I think tight end is our weakest link? I think it's a question mark for sure. Our weakest link for me is still left guard. It's been a question mark ever since Ron Leary left, okay? And we kind of already talked about that. So for me, the weakest link is left guard, okay? Tight end, I think you can make an argument that could be a weak link as well. We already gave Jarwin the keys the first time around, didn't do much with it. He did show improvement in spot duty for Jason Witten. He can get down the field. He can be that Y tight end. So we're all hoping that Jarwin can be the player, right? I would hate to have to use a draft pick on a tight end because a lot of these tight ends, they're kind of hit and miss too. You look at O.J. Howard, hasn't been what we thought he would be coming out of Alabama. And some of these other tight ends, they're just David Njoku. It's boom or bust with a lot of these tight ends. So let's hope that Blake Jarwin becomes it. But I myself still have my reservations on him. He's got to show it, okay? And this is going to be a big year for Jarwin. If he doesn't show it, then yeah, I do see the Cowboys looking for an improvement there. Like I said before in a lot of my videos, studying McCarthy, looking at his history of player acquisition and drafting players, he will not hold on to a player year after year after year, hoping that something will spark and turn around for a player. Okay. With Jason Garrett, you saw them hold on to players way longer than needed. Charles Tapper, Chaz Green, these types of players were you crossing your fingers and hoping they would become something they never did. Mike McCarthy doesn't do that. Okay. If he doesn't see something in you quickly, there's going to be a plan in place to replace you. Okay, so big year for Jarwin. He's got to have a pretty good year. Okay. Next question comes from VTPSTTU. All right. How many defensive ends do you think the Cowboys will keep? If Smith and Gregor are both reinstated, do you see the Cowboys trading one or both? Do you think there will be a big risk having two defensive ends with a history of being suspended? Okay. So, good question. How many defensive ends do I think we'll keep? I don't have an actual count. I can take a look here at my 55-man roster, and I can give you a quick look here. Okay. If you guys missed that video, make sure you check that out. It's a pretty good one. So my 55-man roster projection, I have DeMarcus Lawrence, Aldon Smith, Gregory, Armstrong, Anai, Joe Jackson. So I have 6 defensive ends, 6 true defensive ends. Tyron Crawford, I guess you could count him as that. So, 6 or 7 defensive ends. Okay. I don't see them trading either Smith or Gregory. I mean, They have Gregory is a personal project of Jerry Jones, and he's not just gonna bring him back and kick him off to the side and trade him. Alden Smith, you know, we know the story there, so they're not gonna just bring him back out of retirement and then ship him off. So I don't see them trading either of those two guys. Okay, you need pass rushers. Okay, you got to have a good wave of pass rushers. You can never have enough. Okay, and even if they're the designated pass rusher, that's fine. The Cowboys will be in different alignments. I think the base will still be a 4-3, but in certain situations down in distance, you'll see them go into a 3-4 hybrid type of scheme, nickel as well. You might see Jalen Smith coming off the edge as well. So they're going to tinker with a few things here and keep offenses guessing. Okay, this isn't going to be like the days of Marinelli and Chris Richard where it's vanilla defense. Okay, those defenses were too vanilla. Okay, we took a step back. I think we were all hoping that moving from the 3-4, you know, moving from the Wade Phillips 3-4 to the Monty Kiffin 4-3 was going to be the answer, and then Marinelli took over Kiffin. It never turned into anything. Okay, it never turned into, and then it never really worked out. So hopefully, with these new coaching staff, especially in the secondary with Al Harris, I think he's going to coach these guys better, and Mike Nolan as well. So Mike McCarthy knows what he wants, and I think he's got the right staff in place. I like the coaching moves that he made. I really do. I like that a lot. So, do I think it'll be a problem having both of them on the team? I don't think it will. These players have different types of issues off the field, right? Randy Gregory is more, not even a problem. Randy Gregory is more of using marijuana as an alleviation of anxiety and that kind of thing. More than just wanting to get high just to get high. I think David Irvin was more of get high just to get high. Of course, he did use it for medicinal purposes and that kind of thing. So it's hard to judge these players on that kind of thing. I can see the value in some of this. Okay, but the NFL, they still have a strict code, even though they did lift up some of the rules on marijuana. They still have them in place. So I don't think this will be like a Randy Gregory, Greg Hardy influence. No, see, Greg Hardy, I think he did have an influence on Randy Gregory. I think there was an influence there, and that's why they had to jettison Greg Hardy. So, but I don't see Alden Smith and Greg Hardy, doing that. But you just never know, man. You never know at the end of the day. And we'll just see what happens there, okay? The next question comes from Larry Hargrove. Do you think Dak will sit out week 1 if no deal gets done ultimately? Okay, so we kind of talked about this earlier. I just don't see where Dak Prescott passes on that $30-something million because he'll start to incur major fines along the way. Okay, so he'll be there. He'll be there week 1. My concern would be the rust. Okay, if you miss all of training camp and all these sorts of things, it's not going to be good. You're going to see rust for a good 4 games. We saw Ezekiel Elliott. Ezekiel Elliott has been a slow start every season. That's just his thing. He's a slow start, and it's not really anything about being out of shape or anything. People like to make a big deal about Ezekiel Elliott being fat and that kind of thing, but he's pretty shredded. I mean, you still see his 6-pack and that kind of thing. So it's not about that. Some of these players, they just have rust, and they have to work themselves into it. Okay, so hopefully Dak Prescott won't be that, because that could hurt the team. If you're too rusty and you're making bad plays, that won't be good. It won't be good for him. So I hope a deal gets done. And like I said before, this is such a polarizing topic, and it was the same with Tony Romo, especially towards the end of his career. You had people that loved Romo. You had people that hated Romo. And being the Cowboys quarterback, That's part of what comes with it. You have fans that hate you. You have fans that love you. Okay, and if you're trying to argue with somebody that hates Prescott, it's a dead end. And if you hate and if you love him, or vice versa, you just have to agree to disagree. That's where it is with Dak Prescott. So anybody out there getting involved in Twitter arguments over Dak Prescott, don't even waste your time because you're not going to change the other person's mind. Okay. But for the Cowboys, I hope they get this deal done. And if they don't, they better have a plan in place for the future. Okay. Now let's get to the next question. This comes from Dak Attack. Who is your favorite draft pick, Joe? And who do you see and how do you see them translating to the NFL? Okay. So the obvious pick would be CeeDee Lamb. Okay. And I did love that pick. So I'm not gonna go with that. I'm gonna go with Neville Gallimore. Okay. And I won't go too much into it because I am having my in the lab video with Neville Gallimore this weekend. Make sure you guys come back and check that one out. It's gonna be a hell of a video. I love it. I'm working on it right now. And I gotta tell you guys, going deep into this player, he's ready to rock and roll, guys. Okay. He's pro ready. Okay. Coached up really well there with the Oklahoma Sooners, has the size. He was the fastest defensive tackle at the combine. And you can see the wheels in the games, busting through the line, chasing down quarterbacks, chasing down running backs. Okay. He's a big terror. I don't want to get ahead of myself, but he could be your next Gerald McCoy clone. Okay. This is a big guy, very powerful. And I love that pick. The more I studied him, the more I loved him. So Gallimore is the pick that I really love right now, and I'm really waiting to see how he looks at the next level. Okay, and that'll kind of confirm and validate how I feel about him right now. CeeDee Lamb, that's the easy one. I think everybody loves that pick. You might find a person here and there that didn't really want that or doesn't like him or whatever, but you know that's a weapon. That's a weapon on defense. Neville Gallimore, because you're talking about Gerald McCoy and Dontari Poe. These are your short term people to help you get to where you want to get on defense. And I think that first piece is in place with Neville Gallimore. Tristan Hill, it's up to him. Okay, it's really up to the player looking inside yourself. What do I want to do with my life and career? Because this staff has no allegiance to that player. That they didn't draft him. So Tristan Hill is in the position where he's going to have to double time. He's going to have to double time what he does on the field. He's going to have to really show out, man. Possibly to even make the team. I have him making the team in my 55-man roster because he's a second-round pick. You don't really want to abandon a pick that early, but he has a lot of work to do. Okay, he has a whole lot of work to do, and he's got to earn the trust of that locker room, of his teammates. You've heard rumors that that his teammates think that he's kind of weird or he's a different type of player. So he's got to change a lot of things. Okay, but that's what I see. So check that video out, guys. How's everybody doing out there tonight? Okay, that's all the questions I have there. Appreciate everybody that submitted a question. If you're catching this on the replay, hit that like button, hit the bell for the notification, and become part of the notification hit squad, baby. All right? Get the first notification so you know when I go live, like tonight, new videos that come out, and that sort of thing. I can probably take a couple of more questions here. Josh Prue, one of my members, thank you very much, sir. I do appreciate you being here in the chat room. Yeah, so lots of good conversation. I can see them passing through here as I was going through the questions, so appreciate everybody that jumped on here. If anybody has a question here live, I can answer a few here before we sign off. So what do you guys have in the chat room for me? Anything you guys want to hit on before we cut out here? Let me know, guys. Ah, man, it's good stuff. Thank God tomorrow's Friday. what game are you attending? Okay. So that one is up in the air because we don't even know if the stadiums are going to be open. I've heard this. Okay. Hey, Manny, what's up, man? I did hear that the NFL is discussing some teams want crowds and some states are in such a lockdown that they won't be able to have crowds. So they're going to want to do it where it's it's either or none. Okay, so if some teams can't have crowds come to the stadium, the NFL and everybody will have to say, well, no, nobody will have it. Okay, because it's considered an unfair advantage. That's something that I've read on. We'll see if that happens. So I don't know. We'll see. They got to have a plan in place though, because how do you spread out people in a stadium? The stadiums definitely won't be full. I know that. If they do let fans in, it might be 25% capacity, maybe 50 at the most. So we'll see. Fans or no fans, you get the same trophy. The lunatic, I agree. Um, if you watch the UFC, and I do, I thought that the fights would be different without the fans in the stadium. But once the action gets going, you're focused in on the action on the screen. I didn't even notice that there wasn't even a crowd in the last two UFC events. It didn't make a big difference to me. Okay. Now for sports teams, that advantage of the team, creating an uproar for the opposing team, that will make a difference. And sometimes you want to hear your crowd cheering you on to get you going. So I think that'll be one thing that teams will have to work through. But as far as fans watching from home, at the end of the day, I don't think we'll notice that big of a difference. I know Joe Buck mentioned that Fox wants to do CGI crowds and pumping in fake noise on the broadcast. I don't know if he was joking or if that was real, but we'll see if that really happens. Okay. Excuse me. What's up, everybody? Anybody else have any questions here before we sign off? Appreciate all the great conversation. Great questions, everybody. Thanks to everybody that submitted questions. Great conversation here. Do you see Diggs taking over CB1 role before the end of the season? Absolutely. Not Stefan, Trevon Diggs is going to be ready to go, man. It's a second round pick, but first round talent. Plays the ball really well, and you're going to need him. Okay. So I don't know if he'll start week one, but he will work himself into the starting lineup. Okay. They like the taller, physical cornerbacks. So apparently that's still a thing here with the Cowboys. Okay. And I think that comes from Will McClay, and Mike McCarthy has that same train of thought. So it kind of makes you wonder if going long term, is there a spot for Jordan Lewis to come back, Anthony Brown? So we'll see. We'll see what happens there. But it looks like they still like the bigger cornerbacks. Now, they did look at Antoine Winfield. He's a little bit shorter of a player. So ultimately, I still wouldn't discount the Cowboys ever looking into a smaller player if they're a playmaker. Okay, so they took a look at Antoine Winfield for a reason. Okay, I think he's similar to a Buda Baker. I think more of a ball hawk than Buda Baker. But, you know, he's still, at the end of the day, Mike McCarthy wants the player and he wants to fit that star player into the scheme, not the other way around like it was with Garrett. So I do like that. If Jamal Adams isn't signed at the start of the season, do you see First Wood getting it done? First and Xavier Woods getting it done? I don't know. It might. I think they would probably want a lot more than that. They're probably thinking, well, the Cowboys were willing to give a first and a second, first and a third for Earl Thomas, who was an older player. They're probably looking for some draft picks. Okay. I don't think Xavier Woods kind of gets that done. So I don't know, man. And can they afford him? They would have to really manipulate the hell out of the cap to pay him. I don't know if they'll be able to afford They can probably figure it out, but it's going to be something crazy. Okay. All right, guys. I think that's going to be it for tonight. Gregory hasn't been reinstated yet. And as far as I know, he hasn't met with the commissioner yet. So that one is progressing a little slower than Aldon Smith. Aldon Smith has met with the commissioner. So for that one there, we're just waiting on the hammer to fall. Okay? And that's where the conversation comes into play is, what is Goodell going to do? Okay? Is he going to drop the hammer and suspend him right out the gate? Okay? Because he did have some off-field issues after he left, or at the end of his career. So is Goodell gonna retro suspend him? I wouldn't doubt it. Let's hope not. Let's hope Goodell gives this man a break, man. He needs a break here. He's done everything he can do to get back into the league. Let him play. Okay? So we'll see. We'll see about that one there. All right, guys. But that's it, man. I think that's enough for tonight. Thanks for everybody that joined the live broadcast. These are a lot of fun, so we'll do these as the offseason keeps going. They're a lot of fun. Josh Prue, I do appreciate you. Clowney for me. Sheila Neal, appreciate you. Star 1111, appreciate you. The Lunatic, good to see you in here as usual. I appreciate you, brother. And that's it, guys. If you catch this on the replay, hit like, hit subscribe, hit that bell notification. And I'll see you this weekend. Make sure you check back for the Neville Gallimore in the lab. It's dropping this weekend. It's going to be a hell of a video. And I'll see you for the next time, guys. Peace out, everybody.